Wazzup, you horrifically enchanting individuals. It is the third part of our journey through Nosgoth, so if you are new here, press the upper right link. After another mocking of the many-eyed sashimi guy, Raziel is steadfast in his decision to get into the Seraphim Keep and travel back in time to see Yana Sordran. But in order to do that, he still needs to get inside. And just like with my videos, the devs had to stretch the process somehow, so welcome to the Light Forge. This forge stays in a stark contrast to the previously visited one in almost everything. Firstly, it's ginormous. I mean, the Dark Forge ain't a regular Japanese apartment either, but here the ancient Wamps played with gigantomania may be a little too much. Giant walls, giant statues, giant gates and giant corridors. If Warador has inherited even a fraction of what was left from the ancients, no wonder he can afford so many crows to stalk us. Upon entering and waiting through yet another door opening and closing sequence, we unravel yet another fact about the War of Ancient Vampires and whoever those guys were. Apparently the pillars were made to weaken the foes of the ancients, so it's pretty peculiar how they transformed from a debuff seal of some ancient race into a central stone of the balance in the world of Nosgoth. Does it mean that there was no balance before the pillars were built? We don't have a lot of info on how the Blue Boys were living before all of that warmongering mumbo-jumbo, but I think that the race that would eventually build things like this couldn't have led the life at the bottom of the food chain. Well, maybe war was the fuel of the progress and they were on some monkey development level. We'll never know. Talking onward about the contrasts, this dungeon here was pretty easy in comparison to the previous one. Everything was very obvious. This hint here, for example, has even struck me a little with how straightforward it was. There is still a question of respawning enemies. Imagine I would fight each of those bastards back in the days. Unnecessary long corridors and this shit, for example. But we've already chewed on this a little, haven't we? After the completion of the riddle, I wouldn't talk a lot about it, it was, let's say, engaging enough. A cool vampiric sphinx destroys the things that could potentially be put into Nosgothian UNESCO Heritage Foundation, cooks up a small nuclear blast, then allows us to suck on that primordial energy of light with our big black blade. Speaking about architecture, I think it's kinda obvious which culture was represented by this temple. Limestone, sand, sun worship, giant column statues, sphinx, it's obviously Vegas. Subsequently to yet another door animation, I've noticed for the first time playing this game, by the way, that the Seraphim Keep was most likely built on a place where there was a shrine to the Elder God, near the Sun Forge much underwater, there is a small pavement that leads to a many-eyed circle carved in the center. I love the small things like this because it adds layers to the world, makes it feel more believable. And right after that, we have a giant gate in the water, which is obviously made for cargoes to dock inside, yet there is no access to open water. Nowhere. So, yeah, sometimes we win, sometimes we don't. Upon entering the place and jumping over people's heads, we find a suspiciously bloodless man. Maybe because the fence is too thick to see through, or maybe because Moebius is not the most generous boss, the guards decided to close their eyes on this. The dialogue with another blood-sucking guy was not so long ago, so of course the culprit of this violent act is none other than the Yellow Daddy himself. So get ready for yet another theatrical catharsis.
Show yourself, Kain.
Here, Raziel. Everything is decided here. You cannot comprehend the magnitude, the rapture and the tragedy of this moment. And yet you must, if Nosgoth is to be dragged from the wreckage of its damnation.
I understand only this, Kain. That you and Moebius have impelled me to this moment simply means I can trust neither of you. I don't know who's pulling the strings, but it no longer matters, because I'm cutting them. I set my own course from here.
If it were only that simple.
Your fatalism is tiresome, Kain.
And profoundly ingrained, Raziel. You must understand, our presence here doesn't alter history. You and I meet here because we are compelled to. We have always met here. History is irredeemable. Drop a stone into a rushing river, the current simply courses around it and flows on as if the obstruction were never there. You and I are pebbles, Raziel, and have even less hope of disrupting the time stream. The continuum of history is simply too strong, too resilient. Except, then how do we explain William here? The beloved boy king turned tyrant. In my youth, I witnessed William's rise to power and his transformation into the nemesis who laid waste to Nosgoth.
Keep your distance, Kain.
Years later, I stumble upon a chance to journey back in history, unaware that the entire affair has been carefully orchestrated by Moebius. In my wisdom, I seize this opportunity to murder the young king before he can ravage Nosgoth, and thereby provide the catalyst Moebius needs to ignite a genocidal war against our race.
I warn you, no further.
This one reckless act unravels the skein of history. The nemesis never becomes the nemesis. William dies a martyred saint. I, the vampire assassin, become the author of my own species' extinction, and Moebius profits from it all. I destroyed a tyrant only to create one far worse. But how can it be so? How, if history is immutable? The answer is here in this room, Raziel. Moebius propelled William and me together, but ensured first that we were both armed with the Soul Reaver. The Reaver is the key. Two incarnations of the blade meet in time and space. A paradox is created, a temporal distortion powerful enough to derail history.
Is this your sorcery?
Not mine, Raziel. Yours. You have nothing to fear from me, Raziel. You hold all of the cards.
Then perhaps I should test your sincerity. If what you say is true, you should be terrified. I could kill you here and now.
And so you do, Raziel.
What's happening?
We're hurtling towards our destinies, Raziel. What you feel is the pull of history rushing to meet us. This is where history and destiny collide. If you truly believe in free will, Raziel, now is the time to prove it. Kill me now, and we both become pawns of history, dragged down the path of an artificial destiny. I was ordained to assume the role of Balance Guardian in Nosgoth, while you were destined to be its savior. But the map of my fate was redrawn by Moebius, and so in turn was yours.
This is madness!
Fight it, Raziel. This moment does not have to be an ending. It can become a prelude.
I can't.
You can, Raziel. Look inside and see that it is so. You have the power to reshape our inevitable futures. Poor William.
What is this?
History, a pause, a paradox, Raziel. Even now, the time stream strains to divert itself, finding its old course blocked by your refusal to destroy me. The future is reshuffling itself to accommodate your monumental decision. This is where we restore ourselves, Raziel, and reclaim our intended destinies. It may yet be possible for me to assume my role as Balance Guardian and return the pillars to their rightful inheritors.
To the vampires. And this is the destiny you have urged me to discover. I don't know what game you and Moebius are playing, Kain, but I refuse to be your pawn. Unlike you, I still revere whatever shred of humanity I've managed to preserve. You will not use me as the instrument of your messianic delusions.
Very well, Raziel. I'll not ask you to trust me. Your truths are for you to discover alone.
Humble words for one who presumes to teach me a lesson at every turn.
And continue your journey and learn your own lessons, Raziel. Remember, Moebius led you here, but you walk away unfettered. A champion of free will and conqueror of false histories. There is much more for you to unearth, if you have the heart for the truth and the will to see it.
Surprisingly, this time our father was more or less decent. He retold the thing that I was telling you in the first video, please don't steal my bread, Kain, I beg you, and explains the main gimmick of this universe. Soul Reaver possesses an ability to alter a timeline, but only in pair with another one from another time, creating a paradox of sort, with the one glued to Razy's soul and another given by the Golden Boy. Our Wraith awaits his fate of killing Kain, or at least he is told so. It's funny, but in my memory it's the first instance where our deified guy was shown as someone vulnerable, after the first blood omen, of course. And maybe it's too soon to talk about time traveling shit, but hey, it seems like it's the first time when Kain encounters Razy under these circumstances, yet he knows precisely how things should unfold. Has he already died and gotten this memory transferred to him from an alternative universe? Or has he just seen this event in that time-traveling cinema of Moebius and plainly played a giant gamble? Leave a comment if you know this. Or better not, maybe there is one person that never played the game and watches it for the first time, so let's keep the intrigue. Leave a comment anyway. Tell me about your favorite tea, for example. I'm more of a sencha guy. I love the fact that there is still this father-son dynamic going strong. Kain still comes from a point of power, although a little bit softer. Most likely because he has just dodged the giant bullet. And Razy comments on it in a very sweet way, I guess.
Your truths are for you to discover alone.
Humble words for one who presumes to teach me a lesson at every turn.
Afterwards, we can check on the broken Tom and this hilarious effect of time bending. To be honest, I got a little bit lost because I forgot about this small entrance in the Kain's Lieutenant's fan club room. I also think it's quite funny with how the gears are closing behind the guards all the time. I mean, I can kinda understand same things in tombs and catacombs. You need to prove your worth to the ancient guardians and stuff. Here it looks more like, Bartholomew, there is the demon in the room with Henry and Benedict and little Cooper. Close the gates. Bartholomew, he whacked them. Now open the gates. I know it's gamey game conventions, but it's just fun to think of it that way. Smearing our blade in liquid light and opening the secret room of the time streamer, we are met by the man himself. I adore this interaction because now Razy has much more info on his hands. So it's fun to see how our little snake dances on hard iron. Check for yourself.
Ah, yes. I like that look on your face, Moebius. You really don't know what to do now, do you, old man? Here you are, caught without your damn staff. And I suspect things aren't progressing quite as you'd hoped. You're not used to the fly turning to confront you in your web, are you?
Kain's devious influence has poisoned your mind, Raziel. Now you see betrayal everywhere, even in your closest allies.
We were never allies, Moebius. Conspirators, perhaps. Briefly.
Why did you not kill Kain when you had the chance? He was at your mercy.
Precisely. I had a choice, and I chose mercy. And now I know your sordid little secret. The significance of that displacement I felt when the two Reavers came together. Strangely enough, I was enlightened by the devious Kain, not by you. In fact, I've learned much more than you counted on. I understand now how you've tried to manipulate all of history for your own personal gain. But now all your little schemes are whirling in ruin around you, aren't they? All because I chose to exert my will for once, rather than obey the demands of sorcerers and spirits and demons, all singing the same tiresome refrain, "Kill Kain." I'm setting my own path from here, Moebius. I intend to discover the truth behind all of this.
But you condemn us all with this impetuous act.
Hardly impetuous. It took all the will I could muster. Has my refusal to kill Kain reshuffled your carefully stacked deck of cards?
You really think that you're exercising your free will, Raziel? You're simply Kain's servant.
I do not serve Kain. I merely did not kill him.
Raziel, do not forget your purpose here. You are destined to be the savior of Nosgoth.
Oh, I'm sick of hearing that particular phrase. As for saving Nosgoth, so far I see precious little reason to bother. And I'll choose my own purpose from here on out, Time Streamer. Right now, I choose to manipulate you for a change. Go. In there.
What are you doing?
Come now, Moebius. You're a cunning serpent. You'll piece it together, I imagine. This era is of no further use to me. You will operate this device to provide me passage. I want to see the world in a simpler time, before the Sarafan began their crusade.
And what about Kain? You're leaving your core behind.
You kill him if it's so damned important.
You need only touch the 2 poles of the switch, and the device will transport you. But I urge you to reconsider.
You've lost your powers of persuasion, old man. Rot here and forget me.
And we'll talk about why Moebius has made this grimace and where he sent our race to in the next video. Thank you peeps for staying with me. If you liked this video, I liked it for example, leave it a lapus, a commentare and press the subconscious button. I'll see you in the next episode because there is more to come. Love you guys. Have a good one.